I'm Will from Adventure to Rome. On this channel, we go on epic adventures in the American Northwest. We do rig modifications and gear reviews, and we also do some creative experiments to help celebrate the overland lifestyle. But today, I'm going to tell you about this Big Country 4x4 Ostrich Jr. awning that the folks over at Rugged Bound Supply sent me about a year ago. I'm going to show you everything from the initial unboxing to how I've used it in all 4 seasons. I'll cover what I like, what I don't like, and then lastly, I'm going to tell you whether or not I think it's something that you should add to your rig. Now, this is a true freestanding 270-degree awning that weighs about 37 pounds, deploys in about 20 seconds with a single hinge and a strap, and gives you roughly 75 square feet of cover. The material is 380 GSM rip block canvas with sealed seams around the stitching, which I've tested in all 4 seasons. So if this is something you're interested in, stay tuned. You're also going to hear from my buddy Kevin over at Rhino Off-Road, who has the same awning on a very similar Jeep with the same roof rack and a very similar tent. Kevin and I became friends once we found out Rugged Bound had sent us both the same awning. So he's going to share his perspectives on a few things along the way, which I think will help give you a more well-rounded overview. Let's start with a little history on Big Country 4x4. Now, this company was founded in South Africa and is the company that produced the original freestanding 270-degree awning. I think of South Africa and Australia as like the birthplaces of what we call overlanding in America. And a lot of the products you see on the market today are either from those places or inspired by them. But for whatever reason, Big Country 4x4 never tried to break into the US market until Theo from Rugged Bound Supply came along and brought the company here over the past few years. So I've worked with Theo over the last year, and he is hardworking, customer focused, and very knowledgeable about these products. The Ostrich Jr. is a smaller version of the Ostrich, which is their full-size awning. And for me, the Junior is a really good size to install on a rig like a Jeep that's not very big. So this is a true freestanding awning. It's not one of those that says, if there's a slight breeze, put the legs down and guy lines in and pray nothing bad happens. No. This thing has taken some wind. In fact, I sent Theo a picture of this thing with the leg down once, and he was like, why do you have the leg down? Was there a ton of wind or something? And I was like, no, I'm just used to putting the legs down. And he was like, pick it up. So let me show you a quick overview of what this thing is like out of the box. Here we are, the Ostrich Awning Jr. My 2 gripes about the product out of the box is that number 1, the instructions were kind of hard for me to understand. And when I brought this up to Theo, he said that they were working on it. So maybe it's better now. And number 2, the installation was a bit trickier than other awnings. But as I learned through the process, this is part of what makes it a true freestanding awning. So let's jump into the install. I had to think a little bit out of the box on this install. The Ostrich has a fixed mounting point on the rear hinge. The problem for me was that the Rhino Rack Pioneer platform didn't have a way to mount anything on the rear corner. My solution was to get a buddy who knew his way around AutoCAD and also just happened to have a plasma cutter help me design and fabricate 2 mounting plates that would give me a spot on the rear corner to attach that hinge, as well as get the awning positioned as close as possible to the rack without it hitting the tent when it was opened. And this is the rear piece, and this is gonna go on the back corner of the Rhino Rack. Okay, so we got this rear piece connected. As you can see, got these slotted holes here and slotted holes here that are perfectly measured for the spaces in the Rhino Rack, and it gives you some room to slide it back and forth should you need to. What we want is enough space here that when we attach the awning, we want it as close to the rack as possible, but still enough room to get a bolt and a washer in there. Okay, here's just an angle so you can see what we did. We've got the rear piece and that forward piece on the rack, and we've got the brackets just loose fitted on here just to see how far out this needs to be in order to allow for the tent to open up. Okay, so here it is, just in the driveway. I have finally been able to mount my Big Country 4x4 Ostrich Jr. 270-degree awning. And this is such a great awning. I am super excited about this. It's a very tight fit here, but it does fit. It took a little work, but we got it all on there. I'm pretty excited about it. So my install was a bit intense because I had a few things that I didn't want to compromise on. I didn't want to move my tent off center, and I didn't want to raise it way up. Now, the reason the install was tricky is because the awning forces you to mount the hinge on the corner of your rack. This is also one of the reasons it's a true freestanding awning. But I have to say, I was surprised that Rhino Rack didn't have a place to mount anything on that back corner. But I think maybe the newer versions do. So now would be a great time to hear from Kevin over at Rhino Off-Road because he has the same rack but took a different approach to mounting the awning.
The install is where things kind of started to get interesting. I wasn't really expecting the issues mounting to my Rhino rack platform that I had, and Will had very similar issues with his. And this is what I mean. What's great about this awning is its ability to be totally cantilever and freestanding. But because of that, it has a really beefy set of hinges that mount directly to the back corner of your roof rack. If your roof rack isn't quite built to handle a mounting point like that, like Will and I's old Rhino rack platform is, you might need to get creative. So here's what I did. Through a bunch of Googling, I found a company that makes brackets specifically for Rhino rack for this purpose. These brackets require drilling through the front and back of my rack, which gave me the mounting points I needed for the awning. The awning has two mounting brackets, one on the front and one on the rear, with these channel nuts that basically give you ability to adjust the bracket vertically up and down as you need in order to fit your specific mounting solution. The front bracket is also movable fore and aft, giving you some added flexibility there. Once I got these mounted, I also had to figure out how to mount the awning such that it was low enough that it wouldn't contact my iCamper once open, but high enough so that my door didn't hit it. What made it even more complex is that I'm using low profile mounting brackets for my Rhino rack platform by a company called Maximus 3, so there's even less clearance between the top of my doors and the bottom of the roof rack than your standard Rhino rack platform. I did enlist the help of my beautiful wife, which certainly made it easier, but unfortunately I did have a casualty.
So there you can see two approaches to the install, which once done is pretty easy to take the awning on and off the rack, for me anyway. Okay, now let's talk about how this thing deploys. It's really, really fast, like 20 seconds. This is a massive feature to me because my last awning was an OVS double hinge 180 and it took a bit longer to set up and put away. So I found myself like not wanting to deploy it at camp. But this thing is so fast and easy, I almost always set it up. Putting away the awning is very fast too. It's not quite as fast as setting it up, but it's like 1 minute to put away. The canvas bag on this thing fits really nicely, and this is kind of a big deal. My last awning bag was really, really tight in some spots, and I wound up getting the canvas caught in the zipper, which ripped a tiny hole in it. I know it's dumb on my part, but still, it's not an issue with this bag. It's not too loose, it's not too tight, it's just right. Now let's talk about how the awning holds up when deployed. Having an extra cover over the back of the Jeep has been really nice. This is where we cook, clean dishes, and hang out when we're camping. Not only does it provide a nice roof over your head when you need it, it just makes camp feel more homey. The strength of the canvas and the hardware to me has been really impressive. It's taken wind, rain, and the Idaho sun without flinching. One of the things I really like is this little flip up pitch bar. Not only does it give water a place to drain, it gives you more headroom under the awning, which is really nice. Now, my last awning leveraged guy lines to create water drainage channels, and the few times I use it in the rain, the water would pool and the awning would get weighted down and I have to constantly be like hitting the canvas to shed the water. This thing though is a champ. That pitch bar creates a really good angle for the water to drain, and even in significant rain, I've never been worried about water pooling up. So I haven't had snow on this thing yet because I don't do a ton of snow camping. And while I can't speak for how it performs with like the weight of snow on it, my guess is it'll do fine because of the stout hinge mounting requirements. But don't quote me on that because honestly, I don't know yet. So this is another point where it might be good to hear from Kevin over at Rhino Off-Road about how he's used the awning.
I've used this awning through every possible weather condition that the Sierra Nevada can throw at me. Its strength allows water and precipitation to drain easily down the fabric so that water can't pool and put tension on the support arms or the canvas material. And even if some water does accumulate, the canvas is strong enough that it can handle it. Similar to Will, I found the ripstop bag to be one of my favorite parts of this entire awning. It sounds weird to say, but it's perfectly sized so that it's very easy to fold the awning back into it and take down without having to worry about catching the canvas material in the zipper. There is a buckle that will clip around the fabric to hold it up. That way you can focus on closing the zipper and not having to simultaneously hold the material out of the way. Plus, it's big enough to hold the additional lights I've added, but small enough to keep away from trees, etc. on the trail. Now, as I said, Will and I have both used this for an entire year to put it through its paces. And to be honest, it is so fast to set up that almost regardless of the weather conditions, I always set it up at camp. I rigged a set of Revel Gear camping lights to the awning as well, and this becomes my primary source of light while hanging out at night around the camp.
Now, some people might want more shade or more coverage area, and if you do, this is not the right awning for you. Maybe the full-size Ostrich would be a better fit, but I really like that this thing doesn't run the whole length of the Jeep, and the weight is only 37 pounds on my rack. Honestly, I spend so much time driving that the size-weight trade-off to coverage area is one that I'm happy to make. Okay, so far you've basically heard a bunch of things that I like about this awning, so let me talk about some of the things that I don't like. We'll also hear from Kevin on this. The installation. If you haven't guessed it yet, I wish the installation was easier on the Rhino rack. What I thought should take an hour took a few weeks because I had to figure out how to do it, and it was not easy. The other thing that I'm a little worried about is wearing on the seams. Where the pitch bar goes up, it's really tight, which is great for channeling water off the canvas, but whenever I put that pitch bar up, it scrapes across those taped seams, and I worry that over time it's going to take them off. It hasn't happened yet, but I can see that it's starting to wear. So now let's hear from Kevin on the things that he doesn't like.
Dude, I totally agree with you on that. And similarly, mine hasn't pulled up yet, but I could totally see how over time you might need to re-glue these seams down. And I've got one big gripe with mine. The hinge system is ridiculously strong, but because of the squared off shape on the front of the upper hinge bracket, it is possible for the fabric to catch on the front of the hinge when you're trying to close the awning. And unfortunately in my case, it actually caused a bit of the canvas to pull away from the stitching around this area. Now to Theo's credit, when I brought this up to him, he immediately sent me a reply with a photo showing that they've already identified this as an issue and have also implemented a fix by basically rounding off the front of the upper hinge bracket and then tilting it downwards so that the material can just glide over the top. So it shouldn't be a problem for you.
So, the big question, would I recommend this awning to others? Well, part of the answer starts with budget. This is not a budget awning. At $1,000 plus, it's gonna sting most people's wallets to buy. Now, I've had a budget awning, the ARB rollout, value awning, the OVS Nomadic 180, and now this one, which I'd label as expedition grade. So if you're looking for expedition grade, yes. The answer is yes, get one of these. They are stout, they're functional, and they have really good materials. However, if you have to choose between getting this and getting a new tent or a rack or new tires, I'd say maybe ask yourself how important an awning is to you. They are not an essential piece of gear, but they're a nice addition to camp, and I use this one often. So I'm not gonna try to convince someone to buy this awning if they can't or shouldn't afford it. But if you have the budget and you want something that's expedition grade, this is a great option. I'll leave a link to the awning in the description below if you're interested in taking a closer look. Also, if you'd like to see this thing in action, consider subscribing to the channel. We have a ton of really great adventures and gear reviews like this one just waiting for you to watch. Thanks to Kevin over at Rhino Off-Road for this collaboration. Definitely check out his channel. He's also a fighter pilot in the Navy. So every once in a while, he throws in some Top Gun moves in his feed. It's pretty cool. Until next time, I'm Will from Venture to Rome. Thanks for watching.